Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 103. 103 straight days of bringing the Jeffrey Epstein news to the masses. Welcome to the show, everybody. Glad you're all joining me on this Wednesday. If you're new to the show, welcome. We have some fun stuff in store for you. And for those of you who have been with me since the beginning or have jumped on along the way, I appreciate you all. Thank you all for tuning in once again. Today we have some information from CNBC, and it has to do with the U.S. Virgin Islands and them suing Jeffrey Epstein's estate. So it looks like the U.S. Virgin Islands is getting in on the act and suing the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. In the article, we'll find out why. But before we jump to that article, just a quick update on what's in store in the next week. Well, folks, as you all know, Santa Fe, New Mexico is in my scope, and I will be there next week, and I have some things planned, and I have some trips planned as well. I'll be going to the Santa Fe Institute, I'll be going to the Zorro Ranch, and I will also be hanging around Stanley, the town where Zorro is located near, and talking to some of the locals. So we have that on deck, and that's all coming up very, very, very soon. And there will also be some video companions to that. I'm going to put together a little small documentary of the trip, and when I get home, I'll have it all edited up, and then I'll have it ready for you folks to view, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do with it, maybe throw it on YouTube, or, I'll figure it all out once the documentary is done. We'll figure that all out, but that is definitely what's in store for you folks. That's coming down the pipe. And I couldn't be more excited to get to New Mexico. I know we've been talking about it for a while now, but it's all really coming into the picture now, right? It's all becoming reality. And soon, I'll be talking to you from the 7,900 feet of elevation or whatever it is that Santa Fe rests at, and we'll be discussing the Jeffrey Epstein case pretty much from one of the areas of ground zero. And in my opinion, the most intriguing place that's involved in this case, considering it hasn't been raided yet. We don't know much about it. We've talked at length about what went on in his townhouse in Manhattan. We know what was going on in Palm Beach. Tonight we're going to talk about the U.S. Virgin Islands. But in New Mexico, there has been this shroud of secrecy from the very beginning. And it's bothered at me, and it's needled at me, and it's poked at me until I finally had got to the point where I said, you know what? I'm going there for myself to see what I can see. And again, I'm not saying, I'm coming in like Walter Cronkite and I'm going to have all sorts of new breaking news for you. But what I can promise is that I'm going to add some context to what we already know at the very least. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to get an idea of what was going on. And hopefully the sources that I've been talking with will be able to add some things that maybe we don't know. So we'll have to see what they say. All right, folks, before we jump into this article, if you'd like to contact me, you can do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. All right, so this article is from CNBC, and the author of the article is Dan Mangan, and it was published 44 minutes ago on January 15th, 2020. Headline: Jeffrey Epstein estate sued by U.S. Virgin Islands over sex abuse of young girls on island hideaway up until 2018. Well, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? The government of the U.S. Virgin Islands on Wednesday sued the estate of late accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, pedophile, alleging the wealthy investor raped and otherwise sexually abused young women and girls as young as 12 years old at his secluded private island getaways in that territory. Ugh. How much more depraved does it have to get, folks? 12 years old? Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? It's really a shame that he was killed or that he died, however you want to break it down. It's a shame that he's no longer with us, because I truly think that the family members of these victims, or the victims themselves, should have been given 5 minutes alone with Jeffrey Epstein strapped to a chair while they beat him with a baseball bat, because he is absolutely positively the most sickening individual I have ever researched, ever. He just makes me sick. Everything about the man makes me disgusted. Epstein's criminal enterprise from 2001 through 2018 facilitated the sexual molestation and exploitation of numerous girls on his 2 private islands, claims the lawsuit filed by Attorney General Denise George in Superior Court of the Virgin Islands. And we know that one of the representative from the Virgin Island, the name is escaping me, accepted some pretty big donations from Jeffrey Epstein, and then she never even gave them back. So we know what Jeffrey Epstein was doing down in the Virgin Islands as well, right? He's spreading around the dough to insulate himself from any of this nonsense when the other shoe dropped eventually. Because, look, we all know that if you're filling the pockets of these politicians, they're going to go to the very gates of hell to defend you, because money is the mother's milk of politics. And when you have somebody like Jeffrey Epstein that's making it rain like Floyd on the Strip, all of these politicians are trying to get into the act, folks. All of them want to wet their beaks. The lawsuit seeks the forfeit of those 2 islands, which are worth an estimated $86 million, as well as unspecified monetary damages and the breakup of corporate entities that Epstein allegedly used to provide him with girls who sexually serviced him 3 times each day. Wait a minute. Hold on. Forfeiture of the islands? What about the victims? So the U.S. Virgin Islands would get those funds? Yeah, not a fan of that. If anybody should get this money, if anybody is entitled to this money, it is the girls that were abused by Jeffrey Epstein. The government of the U.S. Virgin Islands does not deserve this money, and they should not be entitled to it. The girls, ranging in age from 12 to 17 years old, were deceptively lured and recruited with money and promises of employment, career opportunities, and school assistance to the Virgin Islands, where Epstein and other abusers, that's interesting. I wonder if they've named these other abusers, or if they're just being, like everybody else with the blanket statement, just abusers, because they're scared to name names. Look, if you were named by Virginia Roberts, I don't understand why any of these outlets would be scared to name you. This is matter of record at this point, all right? So who are these other abusers, and that's plural, that they're always talking about? Participated in sexual acts of rape and abuse of minors, the suit claims. While on the island, the girls sometimes had their passports taken away, barred from communicating with people not on the islands, and were threatened with violence, according to the suit. We've heard this from numerous girls. We've heard this from numerous girls, that they were threatened with violence, that Ghislaine Maxwell would threaten them. Look. I'm all for the U.S. Virgin Islands opening their eyes to what's going on, but don't they have to take some responsibility for what was occurring on their islands? What about the people in charge of law down there? Nobody had any idea that Jeffrey Epstein was bringing these little girls to his island? Come on. He wasn't bringing them all in by submarine. They had to come in through the airport, right? Everybody knows Epstein didn't have any kids. So for the government to get in on the whole Sue thing, I don't know where I stand on that with the Virgin Islands. I mean, come on, guys. Abuse victims then were forced to recruit others to perform services and engage in sexual acts, a trafficking pyramid scheme. According to the suit, which was filed 5 months after Epstein fatally hung himself while in a Manhattan jail awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges. Allegedly. Some of the victims were paid through Epstein's charitable foundations, the suit says. The conduct of Epstein and his associates shocks the conscience and betrays the deepest principles and laws of the Virgin Islands, said George. Okay, well, there you go. The conduct of Epstein and his associates. So that makes it an ongoing criminal conspiracy, folks, okay? Because a conspiracy is when 2 or more people engage in a criminal act or the beginnings of a criminal act, okay? So what that means is this is a RICO case. But why are they not slapping it with RICO? Ask yourselves that question. Attorney General Barr, are you asleep at the wheel? You too busy? What's going on here, buddy? Can you assign somebody besides Maureen Comey to the case? Can we get somebody that actually wants to put these people in prison? That would be nice, huh? The conduct of Epstein and his associates shocked the conscience and betrays the deepest principles and laws of the Virgin Islands, said George. I had to read that again because, again, it's the associates. Who are these associates? Name the names so they can be put on blast as well. The Virgin Islands is not and will not be a safe haven for human trafficking and sexual exploitation. We will hold accountable those who break our laws, regardless of political, social, or economic status. Oh, that's nice. 18 years after the fact, where were you in this whole entire, this whole justice crusade that you're on now? Where were you when the girls were actually being abused? Nobody in the islands stepped up. Nobody in the islands denied taking the money from Epstein. Everybody took his dough. But where were you when the girls were being abused? Don't think we're going to forget that. Don't think that our memories are that short. We have very long memories when it comes to this case. In addition to Epstein's estate, defendants in the case include several Epstein-controlled companies and unidentified John and Jane Does who allegedly facilitated and participated in sexual abuse of underage girls. I don't like the John Does and Jane Does. If they're accused of these heinous crimes, why are they not having their names put into the public record? I think it's a matter for the public to be aware of, don't you? The suit's claim include aggravated rape, human trafficking involving sexual servitude, forced labor, patronizing minors, as well as child abuse and neglect, unlawful sexual contact, prostitution, and conspiracy. Conspiracy, huh? But no RICO. Can again, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, folks, but it makes me so mad that there's not even any talk in any of these articles. None of these journalists even bring up the fact that this falls squarely into the RICO Act. And the reason I'm so adamant about this being slapped with RICO is because it gives the government great ability to bring people in for questioning. And it seems like they're avoiding that. What they're trying to do is put on a good face and say, oh yeah, we have investigations going into this, don't worry. But there's no movement. No, there's no one arrested. They had no problem putting those two guards on blast though, right? Everybody knew their names right away, etc., etc. But yet, Epstein's alleged accomplices, we don't know what their names are. Oh, we can speculate, and people that are listening to this show, and we know who they are, of course. But the general person who's not aware of what's going on in this case and who isn't following it the way we are, how are they supposed to know? They hear that and they just tune it out. Oh, alleged conspirators that are unnamed. Oh, probably just some henchmen. Meanwhile, it's people that would blow your mind. The Attorney General's suit claims that Epstein's estate, which is valued at more than $575 million, is continuing to engage in conduct geared to concealing his criminal conduct by proposing the creation of a voluntary claims resolution program that would settle claims of sexual abuse by Epstein. The suit said that the program would impose confidentiality requirements and requires any claimant accepting an award under the program to sacrifice any other claims against any other person or entity arising from or related to Mr. Epstein's conduct. And that's how they always try and do it, right? They try and buy these people off with money. They try and buy their silence with money. And they know that they can do it because a lot of these girls have come from broken homes. They don't have big money. Someone dangles a few $1 million in front of your face. Hell, I don't blame you for being enticed by it. Okay? But at the end of the day, the rich use this kind of thing. They use their money as a cudgel to smash people over the head with. And there has to be a way. I wish I had like Elon Musk kind of money or Bill Gates kind of money, because I would just swoop in and tell these dudes, yeah, right, I'm going to put together a whole package for the victims. That way they can go forward with their suits and still be compensated and not worry about it. In a perfect world, that's what I would do. But we don't live in a perfect world, right? We can only do what we can do, and we have to play by the rules that are set in front of us. And to this point, no beneficiary has stepped forward to take care of these girls, right? So I don't blame them for getting the money, not at all. But what I do think is that there has to be some sort of way where the public can still have access to these names, right? Because it's a matter of public record and public safety at this point. If people are engaged in this, their names need to be public, folks. But Daniel Weiner, a lawyer for the estate's executors, said the Attorney General's lawsuit incorrectly describes the victims' compensation program, which has yet to be approved by a Virgin Islands court. Weiner said that people who participate in the program would have absolutely no obligation to keep confidential any aspects of their claim. Well, that's a good thing, because that's ridiculous. All right? That should have nothing to do with it at this point. Anyone that's trying to keep these girls quiet at this point is a scumbag. The suggestion that the program was intended to conceal any information or to shield anyone from liability or accountability is unfounded, directly contrary to the details of the proposed program, and false. Weiner said in an emailed statement, "We urge the Attorney General to contact the program administrator directly to confirm that the co-executor's description of the program is accurate, and to then correct the pleading filed today by her office." The pleading filed today by her office. Weiner said the executors of Epstein's estate would have no further comment on the lawsuit. Epstein owned two private islands, Little St. James and Great St. James, located almost 2 miles away from the larger island of St. Thomas, which is home to thousands of people, businesses, and government offices. The suit says Epstein bought Little St. James in 1998 as the perfect hideaway for trafficking young women and underage girls for sexual servitude, child abuse, and sexual assault. Well, it makes sense, right? That's also why he bought the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. He wanted the privacy, and then that's also why he leased the 1,500 acres from the state. Look, we all know what Epstein was up to. We all know that he wanted his privacy. We all wanted to know he wanted to conduct his little operation away from as many eyes as possible, except the ones that he had planted all over the house in the form of cameras. He wanted to make sure that the people that he was bringing into his blackmail scheme to get under his thumb felt comfortable coming to that blackmail scheme. They had to be comfortable coming to an island, the desert getaway, etc., etc. In one instance cited in the suit, a 15-year-old victim was forced into sexual acts with Epstein and others and then attempted to escape by swimming off Little St. James Island. Geez, think about that, folks. Think about being 15 years old and so scared that you decided, you know what, I'm going to swim home. I'm swimming all the way back to the United States. Imagine being that scared because of these sick bastards, and then think Epstein is dead, but the rest of them are still running around living their beautiful lives. Epstein and others organized a search party that located her and kept her captive by, among other things, confiscating her passport, the suit said. Another girl, after being forced to perform sex acts, also tried to escape, and after Epstein found her, suggested physical restraint or harm if she failed to cooperate, the suit says. Boy, what a fantastic guy Jeffrey Epstein is. I mean, all of these people that were hanging around with him, you just feel real good about yourselves. In 2018, according to the court filing, Epstein refused to allow Virgin Island Department of Justice investigators, accompanied by U.S. Marshals, to enter Little St. James beyond its dock, claiming the dock was his front door as they tried to conduct an address verification in connection with his registration as a convicted sex offender. Imagine trying to do that, folks. The U.S. Marshals show up and you say to them, "Nah, that's it. I don't think I'm going to let you in. This is my front door." Yeah, okay. And next thing you know, you're pepper sprayed, beaten, batoned, maybe shot. But Jeffrey Epstein, he could tell them to beat rocks, beat feet, kick rocks. Nobody cares what you want. I'm Jeffrey Epstein. I can do whatever I want. I'm protected. And that's how he felt, folks. The suit says that planning and environmental officials repeatedly issued citations and assessed fines of thousands of dollars for Epstein violating construction and environmental codes in work on his islands. Epstein, 66, was arrested in July at a northern New Jersey airport on an indictment accusing him of trafficking dozens of underage girls 2002 through 2007 to be sexually abused at his homes on the Upper East Side and Palm Beach, Florida. He had pleaded not guilty in that case. Epstein, who was a former friend of Presidents Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, as well as Britain's Prince Andrew, also was a registered sex offender. He pleaded guilty in 2008 to Florida state charges, which included paying for sexual services from an underage girl. He had served 13 months in jail in that case, but was allowed out on work release for hours each day. Boy, he really got the book thrown at him, huh? Imagine this guy was engaged in the most heinous act you could possibly imagine, and he got 13 months, but was allowed to leave every single day. Can you imagine? The lawsuit filed Wednesday says that Epstein's controlled entities owned aircraft that Epstein used to transport young women and children to and from the Virgin Islands in the years before and after his arrests. So meanwhile, after his arrests, when all these people are still hanging out with him, Katie Couric, George Stephanopoulos, Woody Allen, etc., he is still abusing girls, folks. He is still trafficking girls, and he is still engaged in his criminal conspiracy. Yet all of these people who know exactly what he is, know exactly the monster he is, continue to grant him the ability to hang out with them and then have the air of credibility bestowed once again upon him because he's back into the social circles. Aren't these people great? Aren't these people that stand on their soapboxes and yell down at the rest of us such great people, folks? What moral pillars of the community. Epstein and his associates trafficked underage girls to the Virgin Islands, held them captive, and sexually abused them, causing them grave physical, mental, and emotional injury, the suit says. As recently as 2018, air traffic controllers and other airport personnel reported seeing Epstein leave his plane with young girls, some of whom appeared to be between the age of 11 and 18. 11 years old, okay? If you're not fighting mad yet by this, I don't know what will push the button and get you there, folks. My blood pressure is through the roof right now. I can't even explain to you how angry this kind of stuff makes me. And then for the Virgin Islands to come out and act like they're this bastion of justice all of a sudden, like they're chasing justice. Come on, where were you guys at for all these years that this was happening in your territory? Now, I would never place blame on the government, but since they've waded into the fray, well, they're opening themselves up to criticism on their own. So, look, don't virtue signal like, you're these great protectors of these women now, Virgin Islands, all right? Because you weren't. You were all accepting money from him. Everybody that was involved in the acceptance of money from Jeffrey Epstein, everybody that gave him political cover, everybody that let him into their circle is at fault, okay? And the Virgin Islands have zero right to the money that comes from his properties in their territories. That money needs to go to the girls when this is all said and done. And that's the end of it. I don't want to hear anything about local municipalities or states or anybody trying to swoop up on that dough. The girls who were victimized and then abandoned by the government and the media, they deserve it. Why should the government that let Jeffrey Epstein get away with this have their filthy hands on this dough? No way. No how. All right, everybody. If you'd like to contact me, you could do that at bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. And if you would like to help support the podcast and get us out onto location some more, you can do that by clicking on the GoFundMe link inside of the description box. All right, everybody. I will talk to you tomorrow.